In this session, we are going to talk about data analysis, but it's as an introduction. This is an introduction to many other sessions about data analysis. For decision making to be proper, we need to include many data. We need to include informative data. We need to include real data that will tell us, will give us opportunity to make the right decisions for any particular problem that we have, or any particular improvement that we want to have, or any particular opportunity that we have. In this session, we are going to look at the data analytics. What is the textbook that we're using? Very quickly, we'll introduce that. We'll talk about introduction to data analysis. We'll look at modeling and models, and then what is modeling process. So the textbook that we're using is by Albright and Winston. It is a data analysis and decision making. This is available online, and it's available as a book. But on the learning management system, we will have as much information for you as possible for each of the sessions that we are lecturing. For each session, there will be slides, but also some material for you so that you can follow through. There will be also a number of different references and research papers that you need to be looking at. After all, it's a master's degree program. You need to start looking at different ways of researching things and analyzing things rather than just rely on one source like a textbook. First one is introduction to data analysis. The introduction to data analysis, it's what is data analysis? It's living on the edge. We are living on the edge of technology, and because we're living on the edge of technology, we have a number of implications. The implication is that there are huge amounts of data that's being collected. Every day, the amount of data that is available on the internet is so huge. It's unfathomable. We're doubling the data every few months, and then our minds are unable to cope with it. And therefore, we need some tools, we need some systems, we need some programs to process this data. We have power and responsibility to analyze these data, to make decisions. We as business leaders, as managers, as team leaders, as business owners, we have a responsibility for using the right data to give us the right decisions. So we need to be able to source the data, analyze the data, and make the decision and the recommendations. The data will continue to increase in the future, as I said. It's doubling up every few months. So we need to source the right data, and that data will increase the potential of better decision making in the future. But also, if we don't use the right data, with the huge amount of data that's available, we may be lost in that amount of data, and we may not be able to make the right decisions. So business analytics, it may also be called data analytics. These terms encompass many types of analysis. How do we analyze the data from different perspectives, from different angles, and how do we present that data? Business analytics typically implies that the analysis of very large data sets. It's not just about a small amount of data, it's larger data sets. It's over time, multiple places, multiple sources, and how do all these sources interact with each other to make informative recommendations for decisions. Quantitative methods rather than qualitative methods are favored in the data analytics. We need to uncover information to guide business activities. This creates this helps us to create a competitive edge. By knowing how to use a variety of quantitative methods to analyze the data, we can make better decisions. What are models and what is modeling? A model is an abstraction of real problems, an abstraction of real life, real world problem. It helps us to encapsulate or capture the essence or key features of the problem. There are a number of different types of models: graphical models, algebraic models, or spreadsheet models. What about graphical models? Graphical models portray the things that you want to portray in a graphic sense. It's about different elements of a problem that are related and influenced. However, they don't give us quantitative details to solve problems. They give us pictures, they give us a graph. They explain more complex problems in a very diagrammatical aspect. For example, a graphical model is about demands and supply. It's about cost and revenue. This is a graphical model. It's about unit price and it's about maximizing profit. But also another one, this is the algebraic model. Algebraic models use equations to give us, to specify a set of relationship in a very precise way. Now, as managers, not many of us are algebraic. Not many of us are analytical in this sense. Some of us are. Some of us are more, they like to see the graphical model rather than algebraic model. But some of us are very smart in terms of numbers. Some of us are smart in terms of visual. So we can use either or both. And this is a product mix. It is a typical example of a product mix model to show below. Now, this is about the sum of a function. I'm not going to go into the detail, but it is about the symbols that a formula may represent the model. The spreadsheet models are about alternative. It's an alternative to algebraic, an alternative to the graphical models. It gives us a spreadsheet, and a spreadsheet, it helps us to see different arrays of data versus different ways of or observation points. It helps us to relate the qualities in a spreadsheet, and it gives us instant feedback. In a spreadsheet, you may be able to put some formulas in, and the formulas may be able to change as soon as one factor changes, everything else changes. I remember years ago when I started my own business. And I did not know how to charge the fees to my clients. So I used a spreadsheet and said, if I were working 40 hours a week, how much would I expect to earn? So I put the figure. And then I said, if I were working for clients only 2 days a week, and I still want to earn that amount of money, how much would I charge the clients? So I put a formula and calculated. Then I said, okay, in order for me to work 2 days a week with a client, I have to work maybe 2 days a week in marketing. I have to work maybe a day or more in preparing material, in administration. What about the cost of my electricity? What about the cost of transport? What about everything else? So I put all of these different variables and then started putting all the different formulas. And I ended up with an hourly rate that I will charge the client and a daily rate. Then I thought, if I worked 5 days a week, I may not be able to do all of these extra bits. I may have to hire someone. If I hired someone, I will have to pay them a certain amount. What do I do? So I changed by changing one figure, because everything was related by a formula, it changed everything. And it's funny, it's really good to change one and then you see all the numbers change. And then you end up with one figure down the bottom. So I thought, this is good. So a colleague of mine came and said, Albert, what do I charge a client? You're charging clients. What do I charge a client? Because she was starting this her own business. And I said, well, come, look at my formulas. And she said, can you take me through it? And I said, yeah. And I coached her through it. And she said, can I have that? I said, yes, you can have that. So I gave her the spreadsheet. And she said, how much do I owe you? I said, nothing. You're my friend. She said, no. This is business. So she looked at the bottom line and she said, this is the hour that you charge. I'll give you that hour. So she paid me that hour without me asking, because of her ethical decision making. But I showed her that so she can find a way to charge the clients for her time. So that's a model that I used that helped me to make decisions about what do I charge the client. So it's like this. So if you change one of these factors, it will change everything else. There are 7 steps to modeling process. So let's talk about the modeling process. How the first one, as you can see, these 7 steps are very similar to the logical strategy for decision making, but slightly different. So the first step of this modeling process is to define the problem, define the issue. What are we going to solve? What are the things? So my first, in my example, was how much do I charge my client? So what is the hourly rate? What's the daily rate? In this one, define the problem. What is the problem? What's your, or in a research project, what's the research question? What do you want to end up with? What sort of data do we need to collect, and how do we summarize the data? How do we develop the model? The model you might develop a model and then you change it or improve it or adapt it or throw it out and start all over again. How do you verify it? How do you verify that the model is right? You have to test it and retest it. How do you select one or more suitable decisions? What is the best one? I forgot to tell you, when I did my model, I set up not only 2 days a week, for example, but I said the whole, and then I extrapolated that model to per annum, per year. How many days do I need to work for that year in order to earn that amount of money? So that's the second question. Not only how much do I charge the client, but how many days do I need to work in order to make the amount of money that will pay all my bills and help me to live comfortably. And then I said, okay, so it gave me a number. Let's say 40 days. And then I said, how many days do I need to work in order to have a buffer zone that later on, if I didn't work those 40 days, that I still have money that is a contingency fund of 30%. So I calculated that. and then I put that, and then it gave me a number of days, and then therefore what's the amount of money that I need to be charging. All of these different variations we have to put into the model. How do we select one or more suitable decisions? We have to have variations. We have to have different questions that we need to ask. Present the results to the organization. You need to present the results of the modeling to the organization so that the organization will have some better informative data to make the decision. And once that decision is made, we need to implement the model and then review it, update it over time. So these are the 7 steps of a model. What we have covered in this session are 4 things. First one is the textbook that we're using. We looked at the data analytics. What is data analytics and what do we include in it? We looked at 3 different models and how we model them, and I included an example of my model that I used early in my consulting career, and then the modeling process. Later on in other sessions we will go deeper into each of these things and how we collect and analyze the data.